Good morning. Good morning. Who do we have in here with us? Still kind of getting set up myself this morning. I hope everybody's doing all right today. As you can see, it's red across the market, especially our list of stocks that we've been watching here on our coffee and stock sessions. But even in a red day or a pullback, good morning, Rich. Thank you for those birthday shout outs on Facebook. I saw that earlier. But even on a market pullback, it's just a means to buy it more cheap. So even if you were to go green today, good morning, Justin. Glad to have you here. But even if you were to go green today, as far as cash, you can at least be prepared in finding opportunities to buy cheap. And what I mean by that is we can go through and analyze some of these stocks. And see if we can find some buying opportunities in some of these stocks that are pulling back. So, bro, good morning. Hey, I'm holding OTLK. When should I be getting out, or should I wait till about June? Let's look at OTLK. I can pull that info up on when we alerted on it. Actually was a great performing stock. Currently seeing some pullback, but there's pullback across the entire market. So you have one or two options. You can hold on until this market pullback reverses. We've been alluding to that pullback all week, seeing these levels on the SPY. Bitcoin's down to 46,000. SPY's currently at 382.33. So we can see how it's reversing, which we did on Tuesday. And I'm glad we did, because we're back at those levels that we were at around the, we bounced down yesterday at our low to about 380.80, and bounced off those levels. So I'm real curious to see how market open goes this morning, with this being a Friday, typically a selling day, people capturing gains from the week and so on and so forth. It's not too much downward pressure all the time on Friday, but it definitely plays a part. Looking at our daily trading log, go ahead and refresh that for us real quick so we can see where the markets are actually sitting. Overall, we're about flat on the U.S. equities. International equities currently down, except for the Euro Stocks 50. The VIX is coming down though, so I expect this to, indicate that investor sentiment is actually pulling back. As you can see, the VIX was up about 7%, and since then it's dropped 8% since yesterday morning. After reaching a peak around market open around 8.76%. I need to stay on top of my daily trading log so that we can review it, and we can use that tool in order to analyze how the market is acting overall, and then how that's compared to the stocks that we have positions in ultimately. OTLK though, to get back to your point, ML, we initially alerted on OTLK when it was at 130 on January 22nd. And it's performed very well for us. It broke out to 362s. I believe it was well over 100, 200% or something like that. It was one of our top gainers, but the company overall is doing well from a fundamental outlook. We can add it to this list since you are wanting to discuss it. But let's look at it on the daily first, see where our momentum sits. Good consolidation in my opinion, pulling back here and sitting where it's at. As you can see, we bounced off of that 34 EMA right there, hitting about 194 and bouncing back to the upside. Since then, saw some rejections. I want to go a little bit deeper into the 1 hour. It seems like we're pulling back a little bit. I'm not sure what your price average is, so if you could let me know that, then we can analyze the trade from here. But as you can see, everything we've been reviewing in our coffee and stocks for the most part is red, except for Nokia being up 1 cent. Socket did well yesterday. GME, of course, everybody's watching GME and AMC and what's going on over there. I actually had this battle with people on StockTwits last night about AMC and so on and so forth, and them telling me how all these indicators are saying this is going to the moon. But I don't know. You got to think about it from an institutional standpoint when you're looking at some of these stocks. And the fact that I feel like it's a bear trap that they're pulling you into. Of course, they got a lot of money to regain after those losses back in January. So they're pulling tactics that are concerning, and people are falling right into the trap. Sure, you might have, jumped 60% in the past few days. Good. It's not a problem. But pushing this longer term is a concern. Trying to battle somebody with billions of dollars is a concern. And I understand it's for the people. I understand the movement and everything like that. But it's a big concern to me that people are getting led into that frenzy. But anyways, beyond all that, I don't like putting too much attention to it, because when you do, volatility is hard to guess or, estimate, whatever. So it tends to bite you in the butt, if you want to call it that. But looking at the SPY though, let's look at the SPY so we can kind of understand what's going on. We have broken below our long-term support level, and breaking those trends. We did break this downward descending channel that we've been trading in. Excuse me. It broke above it going into Wednesday, and as you see, it bounced very hard, but we found that long-term resistance level coming back into play, pulling it back down. Now it's either going to retest this long-term support and trade underneath it, or it's going to stay in this descending channel that it's in, and we could see this bounce back down to like 375. I've actually been looking for this going back to the 368. I started losing confidence in that expectation once we broke out here. But so if I remove all this, just so we can look at it, bear chart, we're seeing a sideways trend that I want to pay attention to moving forward. Finding strong support on the SPY, as you can see, has been churning on this 381 level. I do want to get rid of some of these things so that we can kind of focus in. I'm going to keep my longer term charts live, and then focus on the sideways channel that is currently forming. Now, market open comes. Let's see if we get some rejection on this descending channel. If we're able to break out above it and we begin retesting that support level to find support above it, or we trade underneath it and continue moving forward, or we go sideways for the rest of the day. If we break this sideways channel then we are going to continue into this descending downward pressure. So as you can see, it's trying to break above it now, alluding to that it will be continuing trading sideways for the most part. But of course, market open can come, and this can be ripped apart and fall terribly to the downside. But yes, I agree with you, J-Dub. Good morning. I hope it's a better day for everybody. I know this week's been hard on a lot of people. Our free chat I've been watching this morning, and seeing some of the losses people are taking after making major gains last week. I mean, we performed very well, as you can see in the markets last week, pretty much hitting all-time highs for the SPY. I expected pullback off that all-time high, but not to this degree. Although we have been tracking it in our coffee and stock sessions every morning, just to get an idea of how to go into the trading day. Now, we saw the pullback Tuesday, and we watched it for the most part up until like 9-10 o'clock that morning to basically determine re-entry points and capture gains on this swing to the upside in the markets. I'm going to pull back here and make sure we're logging our market overview. It is currently 7:40 Central Time here, so I will do another one right before market open, and then one more after about 30 minutes after market is opened to basically track where we're going through the process here. I built this system to solely focus on the overall market view and understanding where we're moving. And as you can see, this was frozen on 7:40 or probably about 7:35, and I let it sit there for a second so I can see this overview and then capture it, and then see where the markets have moved since then. I can refresh this, and some of those numbers will change, but we'll keep tracking it moving forward. What is causing all the decline? Can't just be that we all hit all-time highs and people are now taking profit. That's not what I'm saying at all. And if anything, you would expect the markets to compensate for the fact that they're pushing these new stimulus checks out, which is being voted on the House today, passed to the Senate to be voted on. Based on the House, I think the House is going to pass it, mainly being mostly Democrat. And then the Senate will be that's a 50-50 shot there on what happens with the Senate. And then, of course, it gets passed on to Biden to sign and pushed out. So we could potentially see stimulus hit the market going into next week. It's something to pay attention to. But as far as the pullback, I think we've just had strong runs. And after pulling back below these support levels, people started picking up fear, although it did pick back up above it. Now we're below it again, and people are freaking out. So something to pay attention to. As you can see, it tried to break above that descending channel here and pulled back a little bit. Treasury bonds, yes, are up. I believe the what was it I saw the other day? The 10-year, I believe, is up like 1.93% or something like that. I haven't looked at it. I'll add it to our list so we can pay attention to it. And they were always stating that once we see a 1% uptick in those, that we could potentially start seeing some slight pullback in the markets. Now, I'm not saying the market is in a sell-off or a crash, although a lot is red right now. I think it's a lot of panic selling because people have been speaking so strongly on the market crash that's coming, and I'm not saying that it's not, but I'm not saying that it's here either. I'm just focusing on where the market currently is. Yeah, the 5-year went up as well. And I think what was weird about this was the dollar has picked up just a little bit over the past few days. It's still, for the most part, trading sideways between these $89 to $91 price levels here in February. And when the dollar goes down, stocks go up. If we're seeing a retracement in stocks, in the dollar value, then we can see a retracement in stocks. One thing I want to point out is the VIX and how it's been reacting. The VIX has always stayed above the 20 ever since the market crashed in April. And it hasn't been there for some time, as you can see. We've had some spikes above it, but actually, let me bring this down a little bit so we can get a more accurate look on that. Excuse me. So these are just all indicators to pay attention to. The VIX is the volatility index for the S&P 500, if you're not aware. It gauges investor sentiment for the most part and volatility in the markets. But as you can see, we never bounced below the 20 ever, or let me put it on the 20. Because specifically at the 20, I don't think we should see a crash this year with moving towards a more normal society again. I figured we should see more money come back into the economy, boosting levels everywhere. Well, what you have to consider is the damage that's been done by this pandemic overall and how long it's going to take to recover from all that. Me being a black business owner myself, 2019 we saw $1.4 million gross, profited about $380,000 just in 2019, and that was coming from a business that was making about $80,000 before we took over it. But as soon as, and we went from 0 to 20 employees, and I'm just giving you an example of the economy state. As soon as 2020 hit, February hit, all that, we held on to our employees as long as we could to keep them safe and protected, but eventually we had to let them go. And eventually we ended up pulling out of the partnership altogether. But it did give me the opportunity to build something new. And in times of peril, it's a time for opportunity. So, but back to my point, you have to focus on the damage that's been done that we have to recover from, which a lot of people don't even, a lot of people have issues with the stimulus, and I agree with it. It's taken away from the future. It's taken away from future growth and GDP and our kids. But if we expect to get back to quote unquote normal, it's going to have to be stimulated in some form or fashion, and liquidity is the only way. And as everybody has known, the Treasury and JPAL and all them, they're using all the tools they have available as they see fit to bring the markets back. Of course, we need to have a vaccinated population so that concerns of this coronavirus are completely removed out of the equation, which is going to take some time. There's a lot of different factors that we have to bounce back from. Schools still aren't regulated or in regular standards. Even where I'm at here in Louisiana, they're alluding to potentially going back to virtual, because of that uptick that we saw over the holidays, stuff like that. So, Wall Street is, of course, not parallel with Main Street. And, some people might not agree with what's going on with the Biden administration or the Democrats or the Republicans. I personally stand in the middle of all that. You can call me Malcolm in the middle. But overall, being a business owner and taking hits like I did, I wish we had some support, much better support throughout 2020 to make sure we weren't where we were or currently are in 2021. Just me being a business owner personally and the hits I took. Because I was commercial. I was focused on the commercial side of things, and it forced me to go back to residential and whatever. I'm not going to get into all of that too much, but it's just the simple fact of where we're at as a country, as an economy, and how Wall Street does not correlate with that. So I've actually been expecting that correction to come into play. It's just taken too long to do it, and now we're building this glass floor, and as you can see, with everything being rated in the markets, we're busting through that glass floor slowly, but we are. And that's something to think about. I mean, just from that aspect, and when considering investing in this economy, I feel like if we were more realistic in a more realistic standpoint, of course, the numbers have been great, and we can have that whole argument. I'm not going to debate with anybody on here about that. I have my views, you have yours. That's fine. We're all people, but I don't know. I just feel like we should have did better as a country together. overall, for the sake of our kids. If we're really worried about the future of our kids, we're not doing too well as a country in protecting that for them, is my opinion. Regardless of which side of the aisle you sit on or whatever, whatever your background. But back to the markets, because that's what we're here for, is we can see some pullback. I've been trying to assist everybody with basically identifying where we're at in those potential pullbacks and what we need to see to confirm moving forward, things of that nature, just so we can stay on top of the market, tick by tick almost. And as you can see, we're breaking back above at the near the 384 levels after reaching 381 or lower actually this morning. So 381.43. So once again, really interested in seeing, how this continues to move forward. Hopefully, it was just a slight pullback after hours yesterday and pre-market and even to market close, and we find this support again going into next week. With it being Friday, there is a lot of selling, which also means there's a lot of buying to go with it because people are finding things at cheaper prices, and that's how I kind of want to look at this. Is like, let's focus on finding better buying opportunities with today's trading session, in order to basically pay ourselves back in the long run. I know everybody's focused on the here and now, right now, because that's what's in front of you. But what you're doing right now affects what can be there for you 5 years later. And that's ultimately what I'm looking for in the markets, is what we can establish now in these times of a downturn to profit on, not just right now, but also in the long run. Of course, if you watch any of my trade reviews, most of them are focused on 20, 30 day to 2-3 month swing trades. But now I've actually, with this being what you want to call a buying opportunity on a pullback, I'm actually focused on some longer term stocks that I can hold at lower price points because I may have missed opportunities before when they ran and now they're pulling back. So it's just something to think about. I mean, we can look here, it's reloading, let's see where we're at. So we're still seeing some pullback to the downside on the overall markets from what this is telling me. And what this does is it calculates the Dow Jones, S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and Russell, and it gives me an average score. Same thing here. And we're seeing the VIX pull back even more. What's up with CCIV? Let's look. We actually have that on our list here. CCIV. So over the past few days, I actually did a video on this back on Monday, trying to make people aware that you buy into the expectations and sell the news with CCIV. Of course, the merger was Tuesday, and shortly after that, in after hours, the stock dropped 40. Throughout the week, we've been trying to identify some key levels that we need to pay attention to, and as you can see, the stock has hit those levels pretty well. We found support off that low end level at the 27.49, and I think people are looking at this as a potential to capitalize on this merger moving forward. I think everybody that's taking their profits is out of the way now, allowing for this to continue moving forward. Now, any news on CCIV, I'm looking for now, while we talk about it a little bit more and what to expect. Let's see. So they announced that Lucid Motors, the automaker due for a merger with Churchill Capital, is on track to deliver its Air luxury vehicle in the second half of 2021. The company also plans to launch a competing model to Tesla's Model 3 sedan. So, I know that it's up this morning just a little bit, still down, or still showing down right here on this list. Of course, this list is not showing extended hours and the market change. So some of these things we have to disregard. But I know that it's up $3, give or take, $3.10. And I want to point out a key level that we need to break above if we expect this to be a runner today. And that's above the 30.77, which is currently trading at 31.09. But what I'm trying to say is we need to find support above those levels and confirm that it is strong above that level before we can say it's moving back up at least to the $35. A lot of people are looking at this much longer term because they are trying to compete with Tesla. If from that standpoint, then yes, you're buying this very cheap. It found that strong support from recent rejections on the 27.49, recent being January 25th. Found strong support here. I could see this bouncing back up and continue moving forward. As long as this is trading under this ticker. I'm not sure if they're planning to IPO Lucid in the future or whatever, how they're going to handle that. But if you're going to use CCIV as your channel to get to Lucid Motors, then right now is a great long-term buying opportunity. Going into after hours, I know it gapped up on us this morning. After actually rejecting that support level and going a little bit lower after hours yesterday. So pre-market, we gapped up about $1, $1.10, $1.20, and it's starting to run now. So let's see how it reacts to that 30.77, because as you can see here, it opened up the same way yesterday, but was once again rejected. So if you are to get into this right now, and it rejects, okay, that's fine. You probably could have waited and bought a better entry price, or you're just waiting to confirm that we find that continued support on the 27.49. Now, I'm not gonna speculate and say that this is gonna come back to the 27.49, but it's something to pay attention to if you jump into this at any point. It's finding support, and with it trading above 30.77, finding support up here. Moving forward, I can spread this out a little bit so you can kind of see it all. Finding support right here and retesting that 35. If it does find support above it, if you were to enter right now, make sure you don't retrace below that. I would make that my stop loss, only for the fact of capturing my money in this pullback, lowering my risk, and then finding a better entry. But if you wanted to get into this right now, let's see if we can get back to the 35. And then if you're able to get to the 35 and find support above those structures, then that'll allow you to just sit on this. Does not have autonomous driving. Feel like a better move. They have cars made and they are in Europe. Got you. But just looking at it from a technical standpoint and entries and stuff like that is what I'm basing this off of. It's catching it where it's at, as long as it stays above that 30.77. Let's see if we retest it, and then that'll be a stress test for you moving forward. But if it confirms, you can enter here, and let's look forward to moving back above those 35 levels, and then that way you can just let it go. You'll be deep in the money. And that's just confirmations I would be looking for in these types of trades, especially very hype trades like CCIV. Currently trading 31.09, so it looks like we might stay above that, but I don't like to make speculation before market opens. I always like to see how it reacts to the market open based off of its pre-market performance. So, but I mean, we have so much headspace to the top end to capture and profits, as long as we are confirming that this is the low end of this trade. And we can look at it from this standpoint and actually pull out our fib chart real quick, and we're bouncing right between the 23 and the 38. So I would look to see, and as you can see, that 38 is right around the 30.77 level of resistance that I pointed out. Even if we were to adjust our chart to the, our resistance level to that, that's fine. That way we don't have to keep the fib chart in place. But that's what I'm looking for right now, is to see if we find confirmation above it. Go ahead and pull this back out. Come back down in there. Is there any other opportunities we want to look at potentially finding? It looks like this is trying to run strong going into market open, by the way. Are there any other opportunities we want to pay attention to in this downturn? I do want to see what the SPY is real quick. Looks like we bounced back hard above that downward channel that we were in, so we might be moving forward trading sideways, but we need to confirm support above that first and then bouncing back. off of that trend going into the rest of the day. And even, March being Monday, to end the month strong on a return back to the upside is what I mean by strong. Like I said Tuesday when we saw this happen, like, this is actually a stress test to provide you with confidence in the stocks that you do have. I know, like I said, I know a lot of people are showing losses from things that they gained from strongly last week. But seeing how those stocks that you have money in, whether or not to hold them, basically depends on, how they react when the market reacts in these ways. All right, you want to look at CAN real quick? I'll add it to the list. Nice setup here on the 1 hour. Let's see what our retracement levels are. So it popped right off the 50 at the 1504. So what I'm going to focus on is making sure that we keep our we set a resistance line at the 1504, 1505 areas. See why it popped. So I'm not just speaking out the side of my mouth. So this looks like it is. CAN actually saw better volume yesterday, about 113% above, 113% of his daily average of 16 million shares a day. It traded about 18. Let's see. And it bounced on the 9th. So let's go all the way back to the 9th in the news. The only thing I see on the 9th is that watching shares of crypto-related stocks following new Tesla investment of 1.5 billion and expects to begin accepting. All right. The only thing it shows that they announced on the 9th is that their CFO resigned. Announces improved revenue visibility in 2021, so they gave some great outlook. That's what it seems like. And let's see what else we got here. Anything else that stands up? So looks to be a crypto play, what I'll call that. And what I need to do is create us a coffee and stocks list for crypto specifically, so that we can watch all of them together, as Bitcoin is currently trading below and in a sideways channel as well that I identified earlier this week after we saw that $10,000 pullback. Crypto plays, and we can watch all of our cryptos as we move forward. I'm going to add BTC in this, USD. Most people use Coinbase, I believe, so I'm going to base it off of that. As you can see, Bitcoin is breaking below 46, or attempting to break below 46,000. I know DPW. Excuse me. In the meantime, actually, I need to run and take my daughter over to school real quick. I apologize for the quick intervention. I just realized it was 8:06 or 8:02 here. So if you guys could bear with me for about 10-15 minutes, or if you would like to reconvene before market opens, I can come back here and we can get back on here and look at these trades moving forward. But I got to take her to school real quick. All right, guys, I'll just reconvene and restart up the live feed. If you're new here, be sure to like and subscribe. You'll receive a notification when I do start the live stream again, okay?